This is not a video about heroes and villains. This is not a story with a clear winner. This is a strategic analysis of the first 72 hours, based on real deployments, real military doctrine, and the unforgiving logic of escalation. The scenario begins not with boots on the ground, but with a decision in Washington. A red line has been crossed, attributed to Iran. The order is given for a limited punitive strike. The objective: degrade nuclear facilities and key military infrastructure without triggering a regional war. On paper, it is surgical. In reality, the clock starts ticking the moment the first cruise missile is launched. Hour 0. In the Situation Room, they are tracking blips on a screen. B-2 Spirit bombers, having departed from the continental United States, and F-22 Raptors from undisclosed forward locations are en route. U.S. Navy destroyers in the Arabian Sea and submarines in the Gulf launch Tomahawk land attack missiles. The targets: the hardened Fordow enrichment facility, the Natanz complex, the Isfahan uranium conversion plant. Simultaneously, air defense batteries around Bushehr and key bases of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are hit. The first wave is designed to blind and cripple. For 30 minutes, it appears successful. Initial reports indicate precision hits, minimal collateral damage. In Washington, a statement is prepared about a measured response. Iran's reaction is not measured. It is calculated for maximum asymmetry. They do not scramble their aging air force to fight F-35s. They activate a pre-planned multi-domain response. Within the first hour, cyber attacks flood U.S. financial networks, targeting the New York Stock Exchange and Federal Reserve systems with disruptive, though not catastrophic, code. More critically, across the Middle East, sleeper cells and proxy forces receive execute orders. This is hour 4. In Iraq, militias launch barrages of short-range rockets at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and the sprawling Ain al-Assad airbase. They are not aiming for precision, they are aiming for saturation. U.S. CRAM defense systems engage, filling the night sky with tracers, but some rockets get through. Casualties are reported. In Syria, similar attacks target the smaller U.S. outpost at Al-Tanf. In the Gulf, U.S. military bases in Qatar, the UAE, and Bahrain go to their highest alert level, as intelligence warns of potential infiltration and drone attacks. The conflict is no longer contained. By hour 12, the maritime domain ignites. Iranian speedboats operating in swarms harass commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. More significantly, from hidden coastal sites, anti-ship cruise missiles like the Gaida and Gadir are launched at a U.S. destroyer transiting the Gulf. The ship's Aegis system engages, shooting down several, but the sheer volume poses a dire threat. A cargo vessel, misidentified in the chaos, is struck and set adrift. The price of oil instantly spikes by 25%. Global markets shudder. Israel now enters the calculation. Hezbollah, in Lebanon, holds its fire, a calculated decision by Tehran to keep that card in reserve. But Iranian-backed factions in Yemen launch medium-range cruise missiles and drones towards Saudi Aramco facilities in the east. Saudi and U.S. Patriot batteries intercept many, but the psychological impact on global energy security is immediate and severe. The United States finds itself not in a bilateral conflict, but at the center of a multi-front, low-intensity war. 72 hours in. The initial U.S. strike is complete. The targeted facilities are damaged, some severely. But Iran's nuclear program is not destroyed. It is dispersed and hidden deeper. The strategic cost, however, is already staggering. The U.S. military in the region is in a defensive crouch, under constant harassing fire from non-state actors. The American homeland is experiencing cyber disruptions. The global economy is tipping toward crisis. The limited strike has proven to be a fiction. The escalation ladder has been climbed, not by great powers facing off directly, but through proxies, economics, and chaos. This is the reality of power in the 21st century. The application of force is simple. The management of its consequences is where strategy fails. As the dust from the first 72 hours settles, the conflict enters a more dangerous, more unpredictable phase. The initial shockwave gives way to a grinding contest of endurance. The United States has achieved a tactical objective: set back Iran's nuclear timeline. But the strategic initiative has subtly shifted. Iran has demonstrated its core doctrine. Any attack on the homeland will be met with an overwhelming response against American interests and allies across the region. The US now faces a dilemma. To stop the rocket barrages on its bases, it must escalate further, strike IRGC command nodes in Iran, or even the proxy leadership in Iraq and Syria. Each step risks a direct, all-out war. This is the fog of escalation. An American aerial campaign against IRGC targets inside Iran begins. It targets missile launchers, command bunkers, and naval assets. Iranian air defenses, though degraded, exact a cost. A US F-35, operating in dense electronic warfare, is struck by a previously unknown, upgraded Russian S-300 missile and crashes in the Persian Gulf. The pilot is captured. The incident becomes a propaganda coup for Tehran and a domestic crisis in Washington. The conflict is now personal, emotional, and far more volatile. Diplomacy is dead, but economic warfare is alive. China and Russia, while calling for calm, refuse to sanction Iran. Instead, they begin facilitating oil trades outside the SWIFT system, undermining the global dollar-centric financial order the US strike was meant to uphold. Europe is fractured, with some nations condemning the US for triggering a global recession. America's moral and strategic high ground erodes by the hour. The sustainability of its military posture is questioned. Carrier strike groups cannot stay on station forever. Missile inventories need replenishing. The war is becoming a drain. Inside Iran, the regime uses the attack to crush dissent and unify the population under a nationalist banner. The nuclear program, now a symbol of resistance, is accelerated in hidden, decentralized workshops. The lesson for them is clear. Only an undeniable deterrent prevents attack. The strike has achieved the opposite of its intended effect. We now face three possible outcomes, none clean, none victorious. Outcome 1. A frozen stalemate. After weeks of tit-for-tat strikes, both sides, exhausted and pressured by a global economy in freefall, accept a shaky, undeclared ceasefire. Attacks by proxies gradually decrease. The US declares its deterrence restored, but its regional credibility is damaged. Iran emerges battered but defiant, its nuclear program more clandestine and advanced. The world lives with a permanent simmering crisis. Outcome 2. The unthinkable spiral. A miscalculation occurs. An Iranian missile aimed at a Saudi tanker hits a US warship, causing massive casualties. The US retaliates by bombing the Iranian Supreme Leadership compound. The regime, facing existential threat, activates its final option, closing the Strait of Hormuz completely, using sea mines, missiles, and swarms of boats. The US Navy engages in a full-scale battle to reopen it. Global oil prices triple. World War III is not triggered, but a global depression becomes inevitable. Outcome 3. The Long War. The conflict settles into a years-long, grinding confrontation. America is bogged down in a new form of warfare. Not counterinsurgency, but a sustained high-tech duel with a state and its network of proxies. The economic and psychological toll at home mounts. The American public's appetite for another endless war evaporates. The ultimate victory goes not to the side with the most advanced technology, but to the side that can endure, absorb punishment, and outlast the other. The final takeaway is this: power has limits. Military superiority does not translate to political control or strategic success. In the complex, interconnected web of the modern world, a single action triggers a cascade of unintended consequences. The first 72 hours prove that while America can inflict damage, it cannot control what follows. The real analysis is not about who wins the battle, but about who survives the war, and at what cost. Sustainable strategy is not about the application of maximum force, but the management of inevitable chaos. For more cold, factual analysis that strips away the fiction and focuses on the reality of power, strategy, and survival, subscribe to Think Sell.